Hey guys, welcome. It's Guido coming at you with another. Well, it's not a CC interview actually. Probably a week or two ago, somebody said, "Hey, these interviews are cool, but you should interview like a common player." So I found the commonest player that I could find, and not just kidding. This is Pilgrim. He's in my clan. We met probably, God, has it been a year ago? I guess if you consider the online deal. I think you sent me a replay or two, or you were commenting on videos or something. It just kind of grew from there. But so I've known you for about a year now, internet wise, and you just got a
Yeah.
camera, and so we're gonna do an interview of the common man. So Pilgrim, say hello to the folks.
Well, hi everybody from the UK.
You may have noticed he's a foreigner.
Well, I should have said hi, colonies and colonials, but
Yes, yes, yes. Dirty colonials. Dirty colonials.
pay your taxes.
So welcome, man, to the show. I appreciate you coming
Thank
on
you.
and doing this. Just for everybody's information, my neighbor is dismantling a garage about 30 feet from my window. So you're going to hear a bunch of banging. If you hear a scream, it means one of the guys has fallen off the rafters, and I fully expect that to happen based on what I just watched out there. It's quite the act. So all right, so Pilgrim, tell us about Pilgrim and World of Tanks. What brought you to World of Tanks? I mean, obviously you're an aged fellow, so you know.
Yeah. Well, I started on Xbox with the beta. We're getting some lag, so now you're laughing at me, but now you're catching up. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I started on console beta back in, let me just think when it was, August 2013. I had it on the Xbox and I played it. Within the Xbox group, I played it on the North American side with just loads of guys from firefighters and all sorts of guys from America. And I did that for about a year. When it went mainstream, I carried on the game. And I did it for about a year, year and a half, and then my Xbox died, blue screen death. Couldn't do anything with it, so I sort of packed it in for a couple of months, and then somebody said, "Oh, it's on PC," and I went, "Really? Okay." So I persuaded the House General to give me some dollars or pounds sterling, and I went and bought myself a decent PC, got a rig set up, and downloaded it. So I started playing on PC about 2016.
Right.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years, and it is probably one of the best games I've come across. It
Have you,
really is for a whole host of reasons.
so are you? Do you play other games? Are you? Would you consider yourself a gamer, or is this a single game for you?
I have been a gamer on the Xbox, not so much on PC. I mean, I did. I mean, the standard Tomb Raider type games. I like that sort of. It's third person. You can maneuver in this, the complexity that goes with that. So the puzzles and everything else that goes with that sort of game. So I like that. In some ways, World of Tanks is like that because you have to educate yourself about the little nuances and the little intricacies and everything else. It's a very complicated game, so it keeps the old grey matter going because this is well old now, and
Yeah.
it takes some keeping going.
Nice
So
chapeau, by
yeah,
the way. Nice chapeau. Good hat. I like your hat,
do,
man.
do you like? Well, this
Yeah.
is British. You've got your American baseball cap.
Do you? You don't own an MG, do you?
Oh, I did.
And
It was
you
my first car.
and you wore that hat, didn't you?
I did, yes. This has been with me for 50 odd years, yeah.
That's fantastic. So you played console and PC.
Yeah,
What's your thoughts on the difference between those two? I've never played the console. I heard it's a little bit more basic.
it is. When I first started on the beta, there was only two country lines. So there was American and Russian, I think it was. And it only went to tier 7. So the T-29 was the boss tank to get to that. And the graphics at the time were very much more sort of gameplay graphics, because it was the Xbox.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like that. But generally, the maps were very similar. The meta for the maps were very similar. So it's not a bad education to come across the PC. But PC is far more varied. It's a lot more complicated.
Right.
Uh, there's a lot more money put into the PC side, I think, because that's where the money is for the company, I would imagine.
Right. So what draws you then? You just talked about the third person. What drew you to World of Tanks PC? Was it just that it was better than the console, or what are your
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
what it was, I laid off once the Xbox died. I wasn't allowed to buy a new one. She was like, "No, you're not getting any money for that." So I laid off it for a couple of months.
Wait.
Um,
Does she regret that decision now that you have a
oh
PC and your
yes,
PC get
oh
yes,
yes,
yes.
oh yes.
Go get the
I,
bloody Xbox.
I could spend 4 hours a night and 8 to 12 hours a weekend on this. And she's like, "Do I have a husband anymore?" I have a lodger.
I saw a
No.
meme, just not to derail you. I saw a great meme from England. It was the guy sitting there and he says, second weekend without football. Talk to the missus. She seems nice.
Yeah, what a nice lady I happen to live with.
Who knew? Who knew?
See, you've got your coffee.
Oh yeah.
We'll go with something you don't have, sir, is a teapot.
Okay, so we have to talk about this because it's been a
We
running
do.
joke with us. It has been a running joke with us. But the new information that I did not have, and I believe that because I have British. For everyone who doesn't know this, I have British relatives. My wife, her mom is British, and we go there every other summer. So I've spent a lot of time in England over the last 20 years or so, and I am not allowed to make the tea, which I never quite understood. But there was a critical piece of information they were withholding from me that I just learned, and I think it was talking to you, and maybe you sent a video, that it claims you can underboil
Yeah. Yeah.
and overboil water. Now,
Oh,
please,
absolutely.
please describe how this happens.
Well, what happens is that some people, and I'm not saying it's all the colonials, are very impatient. They like their stuff now and then, right away. So if you have to put the kettle on and then switch it on and let it boil, if you switch it off early because you're impatient, it's not going to boil correctly to the correct temperature to be able to stew the tea properly. So you must allow the kettle to boil to its full extent. That's why most of the kettles in the UK have a timer on it, as opposed to leave it boiling and so it's boiling away. Because when you overboil it, it makes the water stale. Are we really doing this?
But wait, so the article says it's something to do with the oxygen. Is there an actual science here?
Oh yes, absolutely.
That's BS. Come on.
It's British science, actually.
It's all done in the Queen's Pound in the yard in the
Yes,
okay,
that's
got it. Yeah.
My word, Her Majesty would have a heart
Yeah.
attack if you overboiled the water.
Oh my gosh, yeah. If I could boil it in pounds sterling, then I'd be fine. It'd be okay.
But I'm going to send you a teapot. You cannot put loose tea into a teacup or through a strainer. The way you did it on your video, I was having palpitations.
Yeah, you were probably appalled. Yeah, yeah. Now you know why I'm not allowed to make the tea.
Exactly.
A bit of a heathen out here. A bit of a heathen. So you're prior military also, which I think is another reason we get along pretty well. British military. So, and you've got some fantastic stories that I've heard a couple of, and I think my favorite so far, although I did like the scimitar charging the border story, but you have apparently been thrown out of an airplane. Now you may not want to get into the details, but
No.
just suffice it to say that the man has been involuntarily thrown out of an airplane.
It was a somewhat conversational piece for a long time afterwards, I can say, and it was just generally there was I won't go into too much detail, but there was an exercise being held in the south of France. What a place to do an exercise! I mean, if you're going to exercise anywhere, do it, on the
The
Riviera.
Brits usually go to the good places. Yeah, I've noticed.
Yeah. And it was a nighttime jump into the sea to do a rescue mission on a captured princess. This was back in the day. And the lads went up and I managed to jump on board. And the particular regiment I was working with, we all had to be parachute trained. Even the people who were attached had to be parachute trained for good reasons. But it was the middle of the night, and the guys were all togged up, and they were they were getting ready to go, and the ramp was dropped, the loadmaster was all hooked up, and I was on a static line, so I threw my static line on, so for safety reasons, I wasn't doing
Every time the door's open, Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wasn't intending to jump at all. Anyway, the sticks went off. They were all in frogman kit. Out they went, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're on square steerables. I've got them round in the backpack there, and Lodi calls me over to the edge of the ramp. I mean, it sounds obvious now, doesn't it? But he calls me over to the edge of the ramp, and he's pointing downwards.
Look over there, yeah.
Yeah, look at that over there.
Yeah,
so
what?
Pitch black. Yeah, pitch black. So pitch black. I'm leaning out, looking. I feel this size 10 boot on my backside, and I'm flailing in the middle of the air. So I'm trying to fly now. I'm trying to flap my arms, thinking I'm dying. Of course, the static pops, and then your training kicks in.
Sure,
You know, you do all your rises and everything else.
Yep.
I'm now trying to steer the round. Well, the rounds don't steer. They just, you just fall at a.
Do they have the 4 line that you can pull? Yeah. So you get a little steering.
Yeah, you do a little bit. Yeah. I then realise that I'm heading towards water, pitch black, can't see anything, and landing on water is about as bad as landing on ground. You know, anybody who's jumped will tell you that. If you don't get it right, you could break your leg, whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, first of all, they've tried to kill me by kicking me out of the aircraft. And now I'm going to die because I'm going to hit the water and I don't even know where it is and when it's coming.
Yeah, going to drown.
Luckily the clouds broke and the moon shined down. I could just see the water. So I found myself up, hit the water, into the water I went, thinking, okay, I'm cool. It's okay now. I'm back on terra firma almost. Then the chute fell on top of me. And I could not get out of the water, so I'm now drowning. So I'm thinking, first of all, they kicked me out of the plane.
That's the worst, actually.
Now I'm trying to swim and I'm drowned. Yeah. Anyway, luckily, there was a rigid raider with a couple of guys in. I say luckily, it was all planned. And they just hauled me out. And they were just absolutely, excuse the French, pissing themselves laughing. Because they'd infrared camered me from
the whole time.
The get-go. Yeah, it became a somewhat of a talking point.
Oh man, yeah, I've spent a little time with the Brits on various deployments. One of my favorite, I got several stories. One of my favorites is the time the guy gets up. We're doing capability briefs between us and our airframe. So we gave him the F-15 brief. He's given us the Jaguar brief. So the Jaguar. And so he gets up there, Jaguar, and he gets up there and starts talking about it. He says it can go this fast, it can do this, it can do that. And he says, and then as soon as you break ground and put the gear up, it loses all its performance.
It's excellent on the ground.
Yeah. Well, his point was, obviously the higher it gets, the worse it is because it's kind of a small airplane, small wing. But he just made the joke that as soon as you break ground, you lose all that performance. I still remember those guys going underneath me, and I was up in Cope North in Alaska, and we were at 500 feet doing our thing, which is the lowest we were ever allowed. We're all air-to-air guys, so we don't go low. So we could get to 500. We're raging around up in the MOAs up there, and all of a sudden we have 2 Jaguars go below us. I nearly crapped my pants. Now I was a wingman, so I was probably about 800, 1,000 because you're supposed to stack high. But I see this flash, and I look down, and it's 2 Jaguars. I don't know what they're at. -10 it looked like, but
I have, to be fair, I haven't flown with the RAF or the USAF, but I have flown with the Army Air Corps, and they fly their helicopters at some very low level.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've got the Apache and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's 10 feet off the ground, and that is scary.
Yeah, because you get the ground rush. You really don't know how fast you're going at 30,000. You can be going over speed of sound. You can't see it, but if you're going by a cloud, or especially if you're by the ground. All right, so there's 2 subjects we've been told that you don't know. You know something about everything. There's 2 subjects. This was classic yesterday when we were talking. So there's 2 things you know anything about: kids and sex. Is that right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't do any questions on. I'll do questions on any subject you like, apart from children and sex. I've got no ideas whatsoever about any of that. I don't know where my kids came from.
No.
They just appeared.
Well, that was the natural question. Where do you have kids?
They just appeared, and then they grew up, and they just soaked me for money, which they're still doing. Right?
It's a cabbage patch, right? You.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
She just turned up one day and went, "Look, I've got a baby." I went, "Oh, that's nice. Where'd you get that from?" Or maybe it's a little bit of old age dementia coming on. I just can't remember all that nonsense going on.
Could be the old timers coming in, huh? The old timers coming in.
Yeah,
All
absolutely.
right, so tanks, man. What I kind of made. I gave you a little grief. I said you're a common player. You're definitely getting better. And one of the
Yeah,
things about this interview is talking about how many different kinds of players there are in the world of tanks.
sure.
So what is your World of Tanks goal? What are you looking to do?
Right. Well, the very first thing that I started to realise about my goals for World of Tanks was that you've got to be in it for the long haul. It's not a quick fix. It's not, a game where you can play it for a few weeks, months, and go, yeah, I've got that now. So my goals have changed over the time. When I first started playing, it was for fun. It was a community thing. It was on the Xbox. It was a beta version. And then when it became live, we continued with the community thing, which is fantastic. Meeting people on the interweb thing,
Yeah,
getting on with people. And yeah, it's just crazy, isn't it? Um, I now want to be able to be a good enough player that I can help other people. Now, I'm not there, but I'll tell you where I am. I've certainly progressed from, and this is not shilling in any way, but since joining the clan, I have significantly improved my gameplay.
yeah,
And that's because good people are educating me and showing me and helping me. I want to be one of those guys. I want to be one of those guys that somebody goes to, what do we do about this? And so, well, let's try this.
yeah, yeah,
So I did a lot of it. You've done the same. We've talked about this. I did a lot of teaching and instructing in the army, and I have a forte for instruction. I love teaching people things and seeing the light bulb switch on in people's eyes when they get it.
yeah. The aha moment. Yeah,
That is massive.
yeah.
And so I can bring some of that to World of Tanks, but I'm not good enough yet. I need to be not so much stat wise, but I need to be what's the word?
More knowledgeable.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I have
Yeah.
to have that knowledge base because to help people, you need to know what you're talking about. Because once you waffle, people go, "Yeah, whatever," and then they don't listen.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
that's my ultimate game. I think is to be in a position where I can put something back into the game. I hope the game lasts long enough for me to be able to get to that point.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It is a bit long in the tooth for an internet game. It's
Yeah,
actually done
yeah,
impressively well for how long it's gone. I don't really see any reason why it wouldn't go for quite a bit longer. To be honest, it's still kind of, in my opinion anyway, it still sits in a fairly unique niche that is
mm,
not really challenged by anybody.
no.
Not
No,
really challenged.
you've got the likes of, dare I say it, War Thunder and things like that, but that's a totally different gameplay.
Right.
And I had this conversation with Noble Wolf about War Thunder because he's quite into that as well. And I said it's a totally different gameplay. It's just so alien to me. I've tried it and I'm like, well, I don't like this. It's not what I'm expecting out of it. So
Yeah.
you're right. I think it's a niche game. I think there's not much out there that matches it.
So what's your favorite tank or class?
Um, oh dear. Now, shall I say, really, I started off being a TDRT player. If you look at my stats and look at my play. I mean, I've caught up with the heavies and mediums.
Well, let me ask you this before you go on. Let me ask you why, not as a in an insulting way, but why did you go? Tell me about the process going into TDs
Yeah,
and Artie.
yeah. I think if you play, when I started playing, I played Artie as a support to my team. So I
Right.
like the fact that I was helping out because on the Xbox you play in that little group, you're always platooned up. And it was nice to be able to provide that support. Plus, it gave me the bird's eye view of the maps. It gave me the. It's great to see when you can see enemy tanks and where they're starting to head towards and where they're ending up, and you can start to see the meta being produced. So for playing Artie, that's the sort of good stuff you get and the support of the team. Now, my whole ethos has changed over the years that I've played it. And that was my initial play. And TDs is the same. I mean, you sit back, you sort of farm damage with TDs. It tends to be that unless you've got a casemate or
Well, you've
one
got
of
more
the
time
sensors.
to
Yeah,
survive and play and
yeah,
learn the game. It's my
yeah,
contention. That's why a lot of newer players who get beat
yeah,
up early go, okay, let me go get in something that lasts for a while
yeah.
so I can figure
So you
out
can
what
learn.
the f is going on here.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, over the last, I think 5 years I've been on PC. I have very much changed my gameplay now because I think the learning curve for RT and TDs is now over. So that's given me the base grounding. I'm now focused on lights, and I've sent you about half a dozen light games that I got absolutely obliterated on.
Yeah.
I tried to play a light tank like a heavy, and I'm going, face hugging an IS-3 or something.
Yeah.
Why am I dying? But and so mediums and lights are now where I'm at. Heavies I can take or leave. I do like to have a good brawl, but I like to last. You might have noticed. In fact, one of your last replays you did when we did it with Noble Wolf, it was the Brit that was the distraction for the rest of the enemy.
Yeah.
That's my heavy play.
Right.
So yeah, I'm leaning well towards mediums and lights now. Lights give you that insight into the game that no other class of tank gives you.
Right.
You have to be acutely aware. Sorry, you have to have that wider vision, and you have to be good at recognizing when everything is about to go south, really south.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you've got no armor, you've got to get out of there.
Yeah. So you discussed that you were an instructor as well in the military. So describe to everyone how you use that knowledge base and that information and that skill to applying it to a pixel tank game. It's let's not take it too seriously, but do you use that when you analyze your own gameplay?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. When you instruct, when you do your lesson plans and so on, you have to have everything broken down, because you've got to take it from the point of view that the student knows absolutely nothing.
Exactly.
And you're trying to feed them the information.
Yep.
So you've got to get it into bite-sized chunks. And what I do with my replays now is I'll bite-sized chunk it. Okay, these are the decisions I made in the first 3 minutes. If I survive longer than 3 minutes, then these are the next set of decisions and the actions, and what did that lead to?
Right.
Because every action has a reaction. And so if I survive the whole game, which is quite rare, if I survive the whole game, it's nice to go back over and go, okay, what did I do wrong? What did I do right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you break it down into parcels, into sections, then you can actually get into the detail. And, this game is quite rage-inducing at times.
Yeah.
But you've got to step back and go, well, actually, it was me that got it wrong.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, and then once you recognise that, as an instructor or an ex-instructor, you can then rectify that for future games.
Yeah.
And make it right.
For me, it's a brief execution debrief. And there's not much of a brief. I mean, it would be interesting, actually, if you could get a group together and go, all right, sit down for 10, 15 minutes. Here's how we're going to operate on this map. And you can do that. That's basically what you do on clan wars and organized stuff. It's hard to do on pubs. But the brief, the execution, and the debrief, which is then take a look at what's going on and discuss how the mistakes went,
Yeah.
All right, so talking about mistakes, actually, we're going to have another story time. You got to tell the folks, since it deals with tanks, about the West Berlin issue.
Okay. Do I need to get the hat?
You may need the hat. We may need another hat. Do you have a hat?
Bear with me.
Okay. All right, so you got the hat. That's the same hat.
I got the hat. No, I can't. No. I can't wear it because I can't get the headphones.
Okay.
I'll show you it. Okay. Where is it? Oh, there it is. You can see it.
Yes, comrade.
Yes.
There
it is, comrade. You know what this is.
Right.
All right.
Go ahead and tell your story, and then I'll get my hat out next.
Okay. I think it was 88, somewhere around there. Maybe a bit earlier than that. When the Berlin Wall was still up, when East-West Germany was still a thing, the wall, technically, the wall was built on the East German side. Then there's a patch of no man's land, and then there are white postmarkers which denote the start of no man's land.
I did not know that. Okay, so I got it. Okay, yep.
Okay, so the West never built the wall.
Right.
We had little white.
I never really thought about it, but that makes a lot of logistical sense.
Yeah.
If they're going to build it, they're probably not going to go right up to the line and build it. They're going to build it back a little, and then okay.
Yeah. I was attached to the 17th and 21st Lancers, which are now amalgamated, God bless them. But they were the Death or Glory boys. Their motto, they didn't call it a cat badge, it was a motto, was a skull and crossbones.
Yep. I have that shirt,
Yeah, like the shirt.
Yep.
And they were an armoured or a tank reconnaissance regiment. And they generally ran in scimitars and scorpions, which is very much like the Senlac is today. And they had, I think the scorpion had the larger gun on it. I think it was a 30 mil or something like that. And then the scimitar had a rod and cannon on it. But it was reconnaissance tanks. They weren't fighting tanks. They were there for reconnaissance. So what they decided to do one day was all jump in. This is a squadron of six, I think, 6 of these tanks. They decided to go and wake the East German Guards up on the walls. Now, the walls had their command posts and they had all the lookouts and everything else. And the East German Guards used to patrol the wall, and they'd have the binos and they'd watch us doing our manoeuvres, you know, and we'd wave at them and they'd never wave back or anything else.
No, they don't wave.
So, you know, they weren't allowed to wave. They got shot if you waved.
They're too busy being communists, by God.
No, comrade, we cannot wave to you.
There's no waving.
So what the squadron commander decided would be good fun to do was to line 6 of these scimitars up and then drive them at full pelt, which is about 50 miles an hour, towards the wall. Just in a big line, guns pointing forward, commanders stuck out the top with the headsets on, go! Just to get a reaction from the East German border guards. We got a reaction. They were hitting the klaxons. They were thinking we were invading, the whole shebang. Everybody was running mad on the walls. And of course, if you've seen tanks when they stop, when they throw the tillers and they stop immediately, everything tips forward like that. So
they nose dip. Yeah,
he nose dipped. All 6 went just onto the white posts like that, and then settled down. The commanders popped out and waved at the East Germans. They actually waved back because they thought they were getting invaded, and we then ended up swapping berries. And I got one of these. I threw my berry over, and
nice.
They threw one of these down. So yeah, cool.
So I don't have as good a story for this one, but this was from a let's just call it an ex-person that I knew.
How can you be an ex-person?
I don't know, a relationship.
Okay, I see.
The father of an ex-relationship. Anyway, he went to Russia about 85, and just to do the tourist thing. And this is a border guard cap, and he traded a pair of Levi's for. Yeah, no kidding. That story, you know what I mean? He traded a pair of Levi's for this, and it doesn't fit me because the dude was apparently very small. He's got a really small cranium. You know, talking about borders, I was up on the DMZ and Panmunjom talking to we went up there and did a tour while I was deployed to Korea, and talking to one of the officers there, and he says kind of the same thing you're talking about with the border guards. You know, the North Koreans, they've got Panmunjom City, which has got the peace village. And it's got the place where the UN did the armistice, not the armistice, it was a ceasefire.
Ceasefire,
yeah, it was just a ceasefire. And the building is one side on the South Korea, one side on North Korea, and there's 3 buildings. And they've got a big building, the big ostentatious building, and the South Koreans have their big ostentatious building on their side. And they sit there and they look at each other with binoculars. But the American guy was talking about what he loved to do. He'd go down there. He says, anytime you go down there, they'll send their 2 ship of guys. There's always 2 of them because occasionally they try to run for it. And they learned that pretty quick. If they sent one, sometimes he just booked across the thing. So they go down in a 2 ship, and of course they got their guards way up in their building watching. They got binocs. Well, he had this one officer, North Korean officer, used to love to come down, and while they would stand, because when they take a tour in, what happens is it's an agreement with the North Koreans. They lock up the South Korean Marines go in. They lock up the whole building. The Marines go to the back door, which is the North Korean side, and they stand on either side in this position of Taekwondo ready. And these are very serious dudes, man. They're all like 6'2" Korean guys, like bigger than me. I'm 6. I'm like, where do you get these guys? And they're just
feed them.
And they got these big square jaws, and they're just, I mean, they are some badass dudes. So they go in there, they turn around, they put their backs to the door. They're on either side of the door, like halfway, and then they go the position of Taekwondo ready, and they stand there because the North Koreans will come down, they'll peek in the window, and the Americans set themselves up kind of near there's a line basically between the 2 things, and they'll stand a couple feet off. So anyway, he says there was this this North Korean officer used to love to come down with his two-ship, and he'd go right in front of this officer I was talking to. You know, the officer, the Americans a little more, they're not at Taekwondo ready. They're just kind of at parade rest. You know, they're not really being fairly casual, but observing everything that's going on. This guy would come down and he would take his binoculars and he would raise them up and he would just stare. They're 3 feet away from each other. So he would just be staring at this guy. The guy said, one day I just got tired of it. Yeah, one day I just got tired of it. I mean, you just ignore it. But one day I was just kind of fed up. So he said he was standing there at parade rest. Guy comes up and does this, and he just takes one step to the side. And he says the guy doesn't do this, and the guy goes,
no way, he's gone.
He says he does that for a couple, like he starts right, and he pulls it down, and you could just see that he was mad. He's like, oh.
Takes it down and goes, there he is.
Yeah, I mean, they are 3 feet from each other playing these reindeer games. I nearly fell out, man.
Awesome.
That is
Brilliant.
One of the best stories I have heard right there. That's awesome.
Brilliant.
Holy cow. All right, man. Let's see. What else? What else about the game? What would you change? What would you change about World of Tanks?
Well, right, okay. I thought about this because listening to you interview the CCs is an amazing thing to do because it gives us a good insight on how their minds work. And most CCs are fairly good at the game or very good at the game, so that's an excellent thing to do for the community.
Appreciate that.
So I thought about the question because I knew that it may come up. The two things I would change is, and this is going to be quite contentious, but artillery and the wheelies.
Yeah.
Okay. Artillery has its place. How you then integrate that into the gameplay? Well, one of the options that I've heard mooted about, which I sort of played in my mind, was not a bad idea, was to take it off-site. So it would be a consumable, like it is on front lines. But it's a one-time use. You don't get a repeat use of it. You have to purchase it to use it again.
Right.
So that takes it right out of the game. A lot of RT players would go, no, that can't happen.
Yeah. That's probably a non-starter, but it's not a bad idea.
Yeah. But, you can have artillery, but it's not a game changer. Mm-hmm. It's a support weapon. That's how I would change it, perhaps. Wheelies, they need, we've discussed this and you've discussed this on your channel a lot. They need a way to immobilize those vehicles the same as all the rest of the tanks in the game. So if you hit a wheel, then the wheel should stop the vehicle or significantly slow it down for a significant period of time that you can then act damage upon that tank. Just the same as being tracked.
Yeah. I think
have them in the game.
Yeah. I like that they don't stop. I would slow them down a lot.
Yeah,
and with less damage to wheels. I mean, they take a shot in the wheel, even if it's that middle wheel. I don't know that it should slow them down because they're just too. In my opinion, they're just too fast. Yeah.
So out of those, out of the whole thing that goes on in the game, those are probably the two biggest factors that is a turn off for a lot of players. Having to deal with, and it proves the point. I know you've done the video on Frontline. I don't do Frontline on the North American server whatsoever. I do it on Europe only. Because all I do is grind my European account through free to play, so I don't put any money into it. So, but it actually proves the point just how OP wheelies are when you put them in a situation like Frontline, and they are just bombing around everywhere without anything happening to them, and they are just affecting the whole gameplay.
Yeah.
You can probably deal with it in pubbies in a way that if you can coordinate between you and a couple of buddies, you can take a wheelie out. That's fine.
Yeah.
But in some like front lines, they are just running riots, absolutely riots.
So you play on both. You play on both the EU and NA. What are your thoughts?
I have no life.
Yeah. We already discussed that.
Yeah.
The two things you know nothing about and no life. No.
Yeah. I don't need to know anything about anything.
You know what I say about that though, because I hear that a lot. I had a different question, but I'm gonna flex. I'm gonna meta flex over to this question. I hear that stuff a lot about you have no life, and I'm like, brother, I've had a lot of life, man, and I am really enjoying sitting down in my office and playing a pixel tank game. So why don't you take your no life comment and stuff it where the sun doesn't shine? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Go get Go get half the life we've had, and then come talk to me.
Yeah. I think if you've led, and this is the military across the Western world and possibly the Eastern world and everywhere else, if you're in the military, you're at 150 miles an hour generally all the time. And when you're not, you're sleeping.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and even when you're at parade rest, you're still, your mind is 110 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Because you've got to keep on the ball. It's not an old man's game. It's a young man's game, and you need this ticking away. Crap. So when you get to our stage, or in particular my stage, late 50s, late 50s, and you're in a situation like I am now, good pension, good job, house general looking after me as she always has. Why not? Why not just spend 8 hours on a weekend doing something that you enjoy?
Yeah, here's to the house generals, the new chain of command. Here's to those.
Absolutely. I have to say, because she'll be listening.
I could just see her back there going, "These guys are idiots."
She has those eyes that burn the back of your neck. When I'm sat here like this, I can feel. I go, "Ooh, what's that?" I look round. She's stood up there looking at me. I go, "No, okay."
She's back to this. Is what a load of bollocks these two are talking. Holy shit.
Yeah, she did. She said, "You're not taking the teapot in there, are you?" Like, yeah.
I might need more tea. All right.
Might need more tea.
EU, NA. Differences. I see a lot of stuff about this, but I rarely talk to somebody who has actually played significant amounts of time on both.
Yeah. The EU is difficult because there's a language barrier. So if you want to platoon up with random guys, then it's difficult to, and they work off Discord and TS as well. So that's the first difficulty, is that there is a language barrier. Generally, English is the default language, so you can sort of get around that.
Yeah.
The play styles are in some of the maps are significantly different. Now, if you go to something like Quickie Baby and that, he will say no, it's not, but it is. And I'll give you an example. The one with the beach, I can't remember the name of the map. I have the same problem.
D-Day or whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it's called. Yeah. The one with the beach.
Yeah.
On the EU server, I think is a hangover from the RU server, because you get a lot of RU servers coming onto the EU server. That is a critical piece of terrain. If you take the beach, you win the battle, whereas it's the 899 on the NA server.
Wow. Okay.
So there are critical differences. I think I've mentioned it to you before, and you've gone glassy-eyed on me when I've mentioned the beach. You've got like the 1,000-yard stare, like yeah.
Well, I don't know if maybe that's now seeping into NA, because I see it more and more, and when both teams send 10 tanks down there, it is the critical terrain.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the teams have a vote. So I would say don't go there. I would put the 10 tanks on the 8-9 line. But
Yeah.
If that's where the fight is, then that's where the fight is.
Yeah. I think also there's a mentality difference as well with the. It's quite toxic, the EU server.
Oh, really?
The chat can get quite. I mean, a lot bad. On the NA server, to be honest, the Americans and the people who play on the NA server are a lot more gentlemanly in most of the time. Yeah, would you believe that?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a couple of Brits on the EU server, and they are screaming at each other.
Well, I have seen a lot of screenshots of a lot of the anti-Semitic craziness that goes on EU. Yeah. So there is a lot of, and it's not just that, but just like you said, the toxicity across the board. With some words being tossed around there that I would be like, holy cow, that's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but apart from that, the play styles, there are slight differences. The meta for almost every map is generally similar, apart from the ones that stand out, like the D-Day beats and Normandy landings or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
People don't like going the hill on Himmelsdorf on the EU server. They don't see it as a winning strategy. Whereas on the NA server, it's guaranteed. And you can see this bear out when you look at the Mahau against I don't know what the EU server top clan is. When you see the clan battles too, you can see that it's a struggle sometimes for either of, the server players to understand what the other server's doing or what the other team's doing. So
that
makes it interesting.
That's actually is interesting. All right, anonymizer, yes or no?
No, I do it occasionally just to see what's quite like the silly names. I won't. It's not repeatable here, but I've been called some things. which is quite funny. I might screenshot them and send them to you. But yeah, it has its place because I guess people do get focused. I can imagine people like yourself or Quickie Baby or any of the top CCs, across both servers. If your name crops up, I mean, I've seen Artillery focus you, and I think and I've said to you before, it's because Guido's playing. Oh look, there's Guido. Let's just bob in with Artie.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not sure if it's because I am certain it's happened. I've had messages saying, "Hey, I focused you," but it's not like I think. I think just a lot of times because you're a good player and you're in the right spots and you're making aggressive plays, you get focused. So I think it's a lot of that together. I don't know if anonymizer helped. I had people tell me, very good players say, because the argument was, well, I get focused, so it decreases my possibilities, it decreases my stats. And I said, well, I'm going to be very interested for you to show me in 6 months to a year how your stats have increased. I show me that objective information, and that I have not gone after that information. I don't think it exists, to be quite honest.
I think that's a good point, and now when I reflect upon what I've just said there, I think you're going to get focused because you're in the position of power, not because you're a CT, but you've got your tank into a situation that engages you with the enemy.
I think that's more common.
Yeah. So you engage head on first. You make first engagement. You're always going to be focused by art.
Quickie Baby you brought him up a couple times. He made a video and he really got panned for it. He was talking about how the anonymizer and how if anyone would want to be anonymized, it would be him because he gets focused so much because he's so famous, which he got really crapped on for. But he's exactly right. And some people notice my name, but many fewer than would notice his. And I can really see for someone like him, Sircon, Skill, some of those other guys, someone sees their name in game, they probably get a lot more just pure focus from Artie and everybody than I would. So I do get it on the one hand. On the other hand, I'd love to be that famous, in which case I would have to have my name out there, right? So there you go. There you go. All right. What do you wish you'd learned earlier in the game? What's the one thing you wish you'd have learned earlier?
Loads of stuff, but primarily spotting mechanics.
Oh, really?
If I understood that bushes were bushes have the ability to block you being seen. The whole spotting mechanics about which bushes are good for it, which are not. When you back off and it turns dark, you can't see through it. All that sort of goes. If I'd learned that a lot earlier, I think that would have made the gameplay a lot better. I'd be raging. You've got a cheat mod. You're looking at me, and I'm my sixth sense hasn't gone off. And
yeah.
You're like and it's about spotting mechanics. I think what wargaming doesn't do very well is information dissemination. They have lots of videos, but they're so difficult to find. It's getting better now.
Yeah.
But when we first started, it was so difficult to find the information on gameplay, like the draw circles things. It took me years to figure that out. I think it was only because you mentioned it at one point.
Yeah.
The yellow line is, this, and the green. And I went, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think they've lost a lot of players because of things like, I think any game that has a complicated system that's hard to understand loses players from that. And what you try to do as a company is minimize that. That's another military thing. Communication is not easy, especially getting the right information out in the right format. You can communicate and blah, blah, blah all day long, but if the message is incoherent, not organized, or not aimed at the right audience, you're not getting anywhere.
No. And it has to be at the right level as well, because the problem Wargame's got, they've got, kids to old men like me playing it, and ladies as well. So where do you aim that information level? Because there is a huge breadth of mind difference in all of that. So keep it simple, stupid, the KISS principle,
Yeah.
Make it nice and simple, make it easy to find the information.
Yeah.
So spotting mechanics is a big deal for me, I think.
So we talked a little bit about goals. You wanted to get good enough to help people out.
Yeah.
What are your grinding goals? Like, how many tanks do you have? What are you trying to do as far as that goes?
I've got just under 300 tanks now. primarily.
So you also have a
is-
problem then.
Yeah. I take medication for it, so it's
Holy
okay.
cow, we have no life. No life, man. No life.
I did the American, I mean the standard American, British, German, and the Soviet lines. I ran those purely because from the Xbox there wasn't that many country lines anyway. So the sort of transfer over onto PC, I focused on what tanks I knew best because you know
Right.
they have similar characteristics on both the console and the PC. I've now started to focus on the Polish line because I've got past the horrible grind to get into the tier 8, tier 9s now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm starting to enjoy the Polish line a little bit more. The Italian, I've just got the tier 10 now, which is cool. And then I just dabble with the other lines. So at the moment, my grind is for the Leopard 1. I've got the PCA. I am abysmal with this tank. It is beyond me. I mean, Deadhead, who's in the clan, he absolutely swears blind by the PTA. He loves it to bits. You've got to play it like a TD. You've got to, it's a very accurate gun. For me, it doesn't brawl, but hey, it's not supposed to brawl. It's a medium.
Play it like a light.
Oh, okay.
Play it like a light. Try to play it like a light. Give that a shot. Where your whole purpose is to stay alive, get some information, and get those assassination kills, and then you can start ramping up your aggressiveness from there. But then it is a good tank. You'll enjoy the Leo. The gun is what makes these two things. It's unbelievable. I mean, it hits what it aims at for the most part, which is unusual in World of Tanks. Unusual,
especially it being German as well.
Yeah. Well,
there's no Soviet bias to it.
That's right, comrade. Get your hat. Get your hat up.
Get my hat, yeah. I threw it over there. I can't get it.
Well, hey, man, I've enjoyed this. This has been good. What else do you want to tell the people? You got any other...
Well, I've got a couple of things for you. But first of all, I want to just talk about your merchandising, if you allow me. If you allow me to...
Let's go for it, yeah.
I've got a new line merchandising for Guido, okay?
Okay.
So bear with me.
Okay.
In this COVID-19 times...
Oh, boy.
Bear with me.
Okay. I can only guess what's going to happen here. I actually have no idea. I'm a little bit frightened. I don't know if it's possibly he might be having a heart attack. Pilgrim, you're not having a heart attack, are you?
I can't hear you because I don't have any headsets on. But yeah, what do you think, Guido?
Yeah, a helmet. Yeah.
Let me get the headphones on. I can't see you.
Yeah.
You need that, mate. That is.
What was that? A ski helmet or something? What was going on?
No, that's my motor. I've got a couple.
Oh, the motorcycle. That's right. Yeah.
So it's the.
Yeah.
I think I'm a pilot when I'm wearing it.
There you go.
Okay, so that's merchandising. Let's go for that.
Okay.
You can sell it at $100. You'll make some profit.
I'm just trying to sell mugs, man. It's just like.
I've ordered a green one though. I like the green one.
This is devolved into some kind of weird Guido merchandising commercial.
It's a shill thing for Guido.
Yeah, some kind of commercial for Guido's crummy coffee mugs.
Well, do you want one more thing?
Yeah.
Before you ask me to leave something for the community.
Yeah.
Like you do. One more thing. There's two great lies. In fact, there's three great lies in life.
Lies?
Three great lies.
Lies, okay.
Lies, okay.
Okay.
The third one I can't actually mention on air, so we won't go down. But the first two is the check is in the post.
Right.
That's the biggest lie ever.
Okay.
The second one is on the WoT EULA. It says, I have read and understood the terms and conditions. Tick the box. Nobody reads it.
I think you can have one or the other, but you can't have both.
No.
You can read it, but you ain't understanding it. You can kind of understand with the gist of it, but you never read it.
Just tick the box.
What's the third one?
Okay, you're gonna have to edit this.
Oh, I don't know. I might leave it in.
Okay.
I am going to edit that.
Yeah, you need to, especially when you see she did that interview on the CC and she does the gobble noise. We spoke about that one as well, didn't we?
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bleep that out. That's what I'm gonna do.
Oh gosh, I'm gonna go down in here.
All right, man. This has been a lot of fun. All right, so the final question.
Yeah.
Give us some Pilgrim wisdom. We need some of that fine British wisdom from the homeland, man.
Okay. It's like this.
It's like this.
It's like this.
Let me lay it out.
Let me lay it out for you colonials. You should pay your taxes on the tea, and then we might provide you with some more. But anyway,
We could have saved a lot of trouble if we'd have just done that.
could have done. This flag would be flying on your flagpoles.
Yeah.
That was the case, though.
Well, we got the colors right. We got the colors
Yeah,
right.
you did. We digress. A bit of a metaplex. Right. Here's some sage words from Pilgrim. Getting all serious now.
All right.
Treat World of Tanks as you would each day of your life. Each 24 hours of your life is unique, as is each battle you go into with whatever tank you play. It's unique. It's not Groundhog Day. It's unique. You make decisions based on what happens in front of you, and you carry out the actions. So treat World of Tanks like you do your life. Don't waste your life, because you only get that 24 hours once. Don't waste your battle, because you only get that 15 minutes once.
I can't top that, man. I cannot. Thank you. All right.
It's my pleasure.
Awesome, man. Thanks for coming by, Pilgrim. I really enjoyed this. I'm going to say goodbye. Say goodbye to the people.
Bye-bye, people, and thank you very much, Guido.
All right, man.
Great stuff.
See you.